way through the website. If not already, by the end of the week, I've updated what I can for the website at this point. So welcome everybody to our fall parent meeting. This is intended as a snapshot of what a fall black belt test is going to look like. If there are any students here, welcome as well. This should give you guys a good idea of what the process looks like, what you're undertaking, and kind of what your expectations are from our end. As I said earlier, we'll go through all this information pretty quickly. So if you do have questions, we're happy to answer them. Let's just try and save questions to the end so that we can kind of get our full snapshot and make sure I'm not answering anything for you down the line here. All right. So first thing to cover through the exam process here is attendance expectations and some of your kind of first checkpoints that are expected. So the test officially runs between the dates of September 1st and December 1st. Usually our graduation is sometime in the first week of December or so. And we start the official testing process right after Labor Day. During that time period, we expect students to maintain a minimum average attendance of 3 classes per week. And all of the attendances are intended to make sure that students are regularly training and prepping for their exam. Here, 1 or 2 students who try to essentially cram for the exam with boot camps and makeup classes and, trying to sneak in extra bonus lessons wherever they can. We would like to see a consistent attendance from the students so that they can see their steady improvement rather than kind of bum rushing it right in the last second. So that's what that average is intended to accomplish. We have some minimum goals for students to remain eligible for the exam. So for brown belts going for black belts, you guys need 84 class attendances by the start of the exam. So it's by the end of the summer. For first degree, you need 64, second degree, 164, and for third degree, 264. This should put each rank 36 classes off of their final goal, which if you're maintaining a 3-class average throughout the entire testing process should be the minimum number of classes that we would expect you to clear during the testing process. These are kind of your bare minimum attendance numbers to keep in mind. And then obviously there's an expectation for punctuality and meeting all the deadlines and such like that, which is more there just for the sake of it. I know most of you guys are very good with all this stuff. As far as gear goes, students are expected to do their graduation and their ceremonies in a white uniform. Regardless of whether you guys are in Black Belt Club, EIT, leadership. I know there's a bunch of different colored uniforms in the mix here. We do expect full white for everybody on graduation day. There is also a sparring component for the exam, so we would expect that all students have sparring gear that's in good repair, that's usable for the test. Water bottles are highly recommended for each event. And as far as the stripes go, this is only for brown belts. Your brown belts, once they hit their 84 classes, should have six stripes on their belts. They'll be awarded their 7th and their 8th stripes following the completion of the 5K and the second candidate class attendance. And then finally, we just want to remind everybody that during the testing process, all the membership tuition stuff must stay active and stay in good standing with the organization. We don't accept cancellations during testing. We want to make sure that students are focused on graduation and putting their head where it needs to be for the exam, and not thinking so far ahead as to what happens after they're done. For the fitness component of the exam, the brackets for age are as follows. So juniors are anyone under 12, youth is 12 to 15, adult is 16 and up, and degrees are either marked as degrees or for certain things they will compete or test within their age brackets. If you age up out of one of these categories midway through the exam, so let's say you turn 12 in October, which is halfway through the process, you'll be tested in the older bracket. So just keep that in mind. If you're a fall birthday, you would expect to test at the age you're going to be, not the age you are at the beginning of the exam. For our sparring and running requirements, things are going to look a little, I don't say different because we're kind of going back to old form, but this year grappling is going to make a return to the black belt testing. So sparring times will look a little different. There'll be a couple minutes of grappling tacked on to the end of each sparring time. So that total that is listed on the slide is including both sparring and grappling. And then as for the 5K and the obstacle course, the 5K times are still the same, but obstacle is going to be run a little differently this year as well. We'll get to a little later. Nothing has changed here for those who have seen this slide before. This is our basic 5 exercise physical requirements. This is not divided by age. This is simply divided by brown belts versus black belts. So just take a second to glance through the slide, understanding if you're a degree, you are just testing for a flat degree number. And if you're a brown belt, you're testing for the black belt number. Again, these are all posted online. So if you don't panic, if you don't get these numbers now, you'll be able to get them and have full access to them down the line. But these are the main 5 exercises that students will be training for. Kata creation. So the creative kata is a component that is just for brown belts. Students are expected to create their own kata as part of their exam, and they'll present it on testing day. Katas need to be 36 moves long. And we do have guidance videos online as to how to start this and how to run through it. But generally speaking, we count a move as a stance change and or a direction change. I usually coach students to run their katas by first picking a direction, then picking a stance, then picking a combination of moves in that direction from that stance, and then rinsing and repeating that process to kind of create the structure. If you follow that guideline, you'll more often than not be accurate on your counts. And we also take this time to remind students that creative kata is intended to be a showcase of your personal abilities as a martial artist. We don't want you to necessarily do something that you saw on YouTube that looked kind of cool. We want you to do moves that you are very comfortable with, that's going to show to the instructors your strengths. Weapons have been allowed in the past, but are discouraged because we train mainly open hand. And so I want students, unless you have a ton of time on a weapon and you've trained it a lot privately outside of the studio or with other instructors, I would encourage most students to stick to open hand techniques, as that's what we spend most of our time training. Black belts, you will be expected to present your degree katas in lieu of this requirement. So you'll be presenting either Basadai, Kankudai, Hangetsu, or one of those degree katas that you've been working on over the course of the year. Black belt projects is something that both degrees and brown belts must do. This is something that can start right at the beginning of the exam and must be turned in before the end of November. Students are to pick one of the listed options. So either a 10 hours of community service through an existing organization, some nonprofit, some local ones that we have good community or good connections with are some local soup kitchens. Cradles to Crayons is a very popular one. ASPCA gets some help every year. So kind of your standard community service run is option 1. A Good Samaritan project is a kind of a self-directed community service project. This is something that maybe doesn't go through a separate organization, but is still benefiting a group that's in need. We see a lot of like can and soup drives for this, helping local soup kitchens. We've seen some park cleanups, although those have to be more organized than just go to the park and pick up trash. We want to see you organize a group, get a bunch of people to go out and make it a project, not just an afternoon picking up trash. But stuff like that would constitute a Good Samaritan project. And then the final option is a fundraising project in which you pick a nonprofit to fundraise for. And submit your efforts and your project and how you went about fundraising for that group as your black belt project. So all of these, we're expecting you guys to put in around 10 to 12 hours of effort, with regardless of which one you pick. We want to see these kind of be weighed equally, but depending on what organization the students want to support, that may dictate which project you pick. Black belt reflection is also something that both degrees and brown belts need to do. This is an essay or a video, your choice, answering a couple questions about your journey to black belt. The questions for brown belts are slightly different from the questions for the degrees, but are posted on the website. This is something that students can work on throughout the process and submit when they feel like it's done. Both the video and the essay will be formatted very similar. The essay should be about a page long, and the video we look for it to be about a minute to a minute and a half if the students are kind of narrating or interviewing over a couple pictures of them training or something like that. Generally speaking, these reflections are allowing students to look back on the process, what they've learned, what they've gained, and kind of reflecting on their martial arts journey up through this point. Oh, there's a typo on this. It's not 4 parts. So the actual graduation day is divided up. As I said, obstacle course or endurance testing has historically been done on the graduation day, but there is discussion of splitting it out into its own separate day throughout the process. We will give you more details when we finalize that. But our graduation day is usually, like I said, first week of December, or that's what we aim for. This will include the basics, all of your martial arts basics, the fitness testing that we do, your kata presentations, your sparring and grappling testing, and then usually the graduation, again, depending on when we can get bookings and times and stuff. But this is kind of the big day to plan for the end of the process. This is where all the fun stuff happens. And here's a couple quick dates. Again, the fall's a little far out. We're working on bookings now. I say to parents, make sure that the email connection to EFK is live and active, because that's my primary form of communication for all of this stuff, as well as the website portal. The first major due date that I need everybody to keep in mind is a proposal for what project you would like to do. This is just so I know students are sitting up their community service or their fundraising ahead of time and not waiting till the last minute. So I ask students to submit a couple sentences about what they would like to do for their project, what organization they would like to work with, and why they pick that organization. Just a simple proposal as to what they want to do, so that I know they're thinking about it and working on it. That due date is June 29th, so they have till the end of this month to kind of think about it and put something together. And then once we get those proposals and everything gets approved, they can start working on those projects even throughout the summer if they would like. So that's the first major due date. Throughout the testing process, students will be expected to attend a minimum of 2 candidate classes, so that Shihan and I can check up on their status. Candidate classes typically are done at 8 o'clock on Saturday mornings, and we'll release a handful of dates, usually between 5 and 10 dates, or times, I should say, where students can register for their classes, come in for a lesson, and they'll work directly under Shihan or myself. I don't have those dates picked out, but again, historically, they've been on Saturdays at 8 o'clock. The 5K is an event we run every year. Right now we're looking at doing it sometime middle of October. So I put the 14th as kind of a loose date. That's historically when we've aimed for it, but I do not have anything finalized yet. We'll keep you guys in the loop as those get cleared up. And then final due dates for everything are almost always in November. So November 13th would be the date that I would expect all the creative katas to be finished, as well as all the black belts to be very proficient with their respective degree katas. And then November 20th, which is the Monday before Thanksgiving, is the date that I ask for all projects, essays, videos, katas, anything that you've been working on behind the scenes. The final due date is November 20th. That way, no one's stressing about their stuff over the Thanksgiving break, and we can roll right into testing process, which again, we aim for first week of December. So I want all of that other stuff turned in before Thanksgiving. You can turn it in earlier if it's done, but no later than November 20th. And then again, we have 2 major dates in early December. We have a rehearsal and a pretest, which will happen the Friday prior to whenever we book the exam, to get students ready for the graduation show and kind of go through the ins and outs of what to expect on testing day, kind of a dry run of the performance aspect of testing and the graduation testing. And then the actual testing and graduation day will be launched whenever I have the dates. I'm discussing dates and times with a couple different facilities. And as soon as I nail something down, we'll let you guys know. Unless Shihan has anything else to add, I think that's my general run through of kind of.
Just a couple things, Sensei.
Yes, sir.
Um, the weekends that are 99.9% likely that the graduation will be held over are the first weekend in December or the second weekend in December. Unfortunately, we are at the bay of the school systems and renting their auditoriums, and we usually have a very difficult time in getting those booked because of their annual plays and other things that are going on at that time of year. So I do want to get away from holding the event at the Hilton. It was great for some things, but I really like getting back to a larger environment. And I want to get back to doing a big show extravaganza like we've always done in the past. Once COVID hit, things really changed, and our black belt test um, it got a little, I hate to say it, but it got a little watered down just because of the way things were and what we had to do. And we're trying to work back to what it was before. And this exam will be a much bigger step. We're taking a bigger jump in getting back to running the exams the way we were prior to that. So everything that was listed that we went over is pretty accurate. The one thing that's going to change quite a bit is the obstacle course, and the 5K will most likely be combined into one event on a separate day. And then the graduation will move most likely back into an auditorium setting where it will be more of a big show and an opportunity for everyone to really bring in friends and family to watch them celebrate this huge accomplishment. Okay, we'll open up the floor now for any questions. I think we're doing pretty good on time. Is that right, Sensei?
Yeah, I think we probably have about 10 to 15 minutes for questions if my timer's right. Maybe a little bit more actually. Yeah, probably about 10 to 15 minutes for questions. Matthew had asked earlier, can they attend more than 2 candidate classes? Yes, but only if we have a space. The minimum is 2. So if we have extra room, we can definitely accommodate more attendances, but we have to make sure that everyone gets those minimum of 2.
Um, the obstacle course is a 3 mile distance that we set up obstacles every roughly quarter mile of the trip. The obstacles can be anything from doing 100 jumping jacks to doing 100 step ups on a bench or something of the sort. It's very difficult. The running is actually the easy part.
And the rehearsal is just with us going back to the big auditorium show. We're asking everyone to be present for a rehearsal to go over the show portion and kind of how graduation is going to work and the bow-in proceedings and stuff like that. So rehearsal is exactly what it sounds like. It's a rehearsal for the graduation and the auditorium portion of the show. And Sarah asked about getting techniques written out for people to keep. Yes, absolutely. All the instructors should have copies of what are the required techniques for each belt rank. And I can also try and put together a list and send that out for those who are interested. But there are definitely resources out there to help you guys kind of summarize what you need to be responsible for.
Um,
Tim asked, is the running distance and time the same for degree candidates? Running degree stuff running is the one thing that degrees are tested on based on their age. So whatever the age list was for the running times, degrees will be held accountable for that time frame. As far as siblings working together on community service, yes, we do allow siblings who are testing together to work together on their projects. And we also have had students in the past work with friends to put together a big community service project where they all put their heads together and organize a big event to, facilitate or benefit a group that they all kind of mutually have an affinity towards. We just want to make sure that each individual participant is putting in the appropriate amount of work and hours and doing their part and not being just kind of tugged along for the duration of the
And
project.
we encourage all of the students to involve their friends and families in their projects. We think that's a great idea.
Is the 5K and the obstacle course the same thing or separate? Historically, they've been separate. The 5K has been run as kind of a fitness assessment for the cardio expectations on the graduation day. We are looking at potentially combining those two items into one test, where it would be a 5K distance with other things thrown in. I will say, if that is the case, the time frame, the minimum expectation of time that was posted in the slides will likely be updated, as those are just straight running time expectations. If we're throwing obstacles in the mix, I will be adjusting the time. So you're not expected to run the same distance in the same time, kind of thing.
Matthew, I believe that everything that was in the PowerPoint is going to be listed and put up in the Black Belt portal. Is that correct, Sensei?
Yes, most of the information that's listed in the PowerPoint is already updated in the Black Belt testing area. I did my best to cover all of my bases before we did the meeting. It's always possible that I missed a couple things here or there. And we're also recording the meeting, which will be posted to YouTube probably tomorrow morning for those who want to review everything and go through what was discussed today.
One more thing before we forget and go before we continue with the questions. There is a online tracker that we will set up that you need to opt in for just by sending us an email. On that tracker, we update it weekly with everyone's attendance and also what's been turned in for projects, checkpoints on their Kata. So you'll be able to see if your student is up to par or where they should be with their attendance or any other milestones during the exam. We'll check that off and update it regularly. And that way, in order to opt in for that, we'll send an email with instructions on this as well. But you need to opt in so that you're in, because it's a public tracker that everybody can see.
And for those who are asking about opt-ins and emails and logins and such, yes, you have to opt in every year. Unfortunately, I can't keep records of everyone from previous exams who has opted in or out, so it would have to be an annual re-up. You can become a member of our website with just a simple email password, and that's how you would you would access the tracker if you would like to be included. All the information will still be tracked in the background, whether you opt in or not, but it's nice for you to know where you are.
We'll send an email reminding you to opt in this week, so that'll be available. Or if you want to do it now, you can do it now as well.
There was a question about physical abilities between some of the younger and older students, and kind of expectations. Shion, you want to tackle that one?
Yeah. We know all of the students either personally or through the instructors, and we're very tuned into what everybody's physical capabilities are. We're looking for every student to be pushed to their own personal limits. We know some students are much more athletic or physical than other students, but we expect them to push themselves to their best. And either if we don't know them personally one-on-one, we really do communicate very closely with all of the instructors to know what they're capable of and make sure that everybody pushes to their best. So if someone comes up a few push-ups shy, but that was an outstanding performance and that was a black belt performance for them, that's acceptable. If someone comes up a few push-ups shy, but they were capable of blowing away the numbers, then that's not acceptable. So is it a little bit of a double standard? Maybe, but being a black belt is not the same for everybody. Being a black belt is a little different for some people, and we want everybody to be a black belt for them, not necessarily comparing everybody to each other, but comparing themselves to what they once were and what they are now.
Two questions came up about the fundraising if you choose fundraising as your project, the minimal goal for fundraising is $350 for your organization of choice. Usually if it's a pair of siblings raising, we adjust that goal down a little bit because you guys are probably still pulling from the same pool of people to fundraise for. But that would be the goal. And the 5K is going to be disconnected from your black belt project regardless of what we do. So you would not have to raise money for the 5K as you have done in the past. And then 2 questions regarding can siblings and parents participate in the obstacle course with your students? For the 5K, yes, historically we've allowed parents to run with students. I would say that the obstacle course is probably going to depend on what the obstacles were, but there will be some kind of participation for parents allowed to, at the very least, tail the students and cheer them on, or encourage them throughout the process. I can't say for sure what the obstacle course is going to be yet, so I don't want to go on record and say something that is going to implicate me later. But
all right, as far as someone's asking about the final dates for the testing, as soon as we have them, we will post them. I would love to be able to post them right now, but unfortunately, we have to see what the school systems have available. And unfortunately, again, most of them don't make those exact dates available until the schools open for next year. So we likely won't be able to get those dates until late August or early September.
But I am trying. I did submit a bunch of requests this morning, actually, for a couple dates. And like I said, we try and be as communicative as possible throughout this entire process. And as soon as we know, is the general idea with a lot of these black belt testing requirements.
I can promise you the final exam weekend will either be the first weekend of December or the second weekend of December. Which weekend, we don't know. So try to keep those 2 weekends free and available. Any other questions?
I was going to say Zoom is yelling at me. I have 7 minutes and 24 seconds left on the meeting. So we have exactly 7 minutes and 20 seconds for questions. If anyone still has anything that they're curious about, other than like final dates and stuff like that. Again, general proceedings, and hopefully everyone understands the expectation for the summer and now has a better idea of what they need to do to prepare themselves for the start of the exam. Remember, the first major due date is a proposal submitted by June 29th, outlining what you personally would like to do for the Black Belt project. If you submit a proposal and the subject changes because of circumstances, that's fine. We just want to make sure that it's something you're working on ahead of time.
And don't be afraid to email us. I would rather have somebody email or call us every day rather than be confused or not understand something. You are not bothering us. This is our job. This is what we do. Our job is to try to make this process as smooth as we can for everybody. And the more you communicate with us with concerns, problems, or you need help with something, the more we can help.
I also just posted in the chat for everybody my direct EFK email. Please copy that down. And if you have any questions, I become your main point of contact for the entirety of black belt testing. So please feel free to send any questions my way. And that also answers one of the questions of who they submit their proposals to. All proposals can come through me or be handed into your head instructor, whatever your preference is. But the email I just posted in chat is free and clear for you guys to fire away with questions, concerns, anything that you guys need during the testing process.
The question about the 5K and obstacle course, we are going to consolidate them. It's going to be just an obstacle course that is a 5K at the same time. So it's a much more difficult task. Like I said, the running is the easy part of the obstacle course.
5 minutes left on the timer.
We learned this the hard way a couple of Zooms ago where we were just chit-chatting away and then it told us that it was shutting off in 60 seconds and we had to quickly hurry.
Yeah, kicked everybody out. Everyone was very upset with me.
I got a quick question for you folks.
Yep.
What are some of the things, obviously this is more for parents here, right? But I'm kind of curious, like for the kids specifically, what are the issues that they tend to have? Not issues, but like what are the things that they tend to botch up and so forth? That keep an eye out for.
Sometimes I would say missing deadlines or not being focused on the fitness requirements, probably the biggest thing that we come across. I've found that parents that are the best naggers, that stay on top of their students are the most helpful. So as much as you may not want to have to nag them, sometimes that's our job as parents, to remind them, just like we remind them to do their homework, take their vitamins, take a bath. We have to do the same things. Remind them, okay, did you do your push-ups today? Hey, let's go for a run today. Did you practice your kata today? Or did you meet your correct number of moves? So the more tuned into the requirements you guys are, and you pay attention and you continuously remind them and nag them, the more helpful you are. No kids ever made it to black belt without a parent behind them, nudging them and helping them.
I agree with Shihan. I think just if procrastination wins, these requirements become overwhelming very quickly. So families that stay aware and on top of all the deadlines and the requirements, and approach things intelligently with a well thought out kind of process ahead of them, tend to have the most success. And the students that wait to the last minute to try and get everything wrapped up are the ones that tend to struggle.
Are there any specific ways to prepare for the obstacle course? Yes. First, get yourself ready to be able to run a 5K. So a little over 3 miles. That's step one. Step two is, once you get to that point, start adding in your own obstacles, which would be stopping at a half a mile and doing 100 jumping jacks, then stopping at another quarter mile and doing 100 front kick, jab, cross. Things like that will help get them ready for it and prepared for it. That, in addition to doing all of their required exercises so they can meet that requirement, should put them in the right shape to do it.
As far as prepping for a 5K, I would recommend, there are plenty of free couch to 5K courses online. Those are usually very helpful, slow ramps into running for those who have never participated in a running program before. Usually very manageable mileage or time-based systems, where it's more about getting out, hitting the track, and getting some mileage under your feet, and slowly ramping into a longer distance. Those are going to be crucial for those who are looking to prep a 5K who have never done so before.
Not likely, Matt, but I'll think about it. It's more fun if it's a surprise and they don't know what to expect.
You got more representation for the obstacle course this time. Usually our answer is you'll find out when the obstacle course comes around.
But that was a good question. One quick thing, we used to run a quick 5K prep course. Sensei Ethan used to run it for us Sunday mornings. If we get enough people interested, and I can talk him into doing that again, because he's back with us for a short period of time, maybe I can convince him to run that course again. But we'll put that in the email to Sensei Ryan to see if we have enough people that show interest for that.
Yes, sir. All right, we got
someone just put in. Oh, that was. Okay, good.
Yeah,
I didn't even see that question before I said that.
Yeah, we can try and at the very least put together a sample running program and distribute that for those. If we have enough interest to put together a formal running group, that's absolutely something that we can look into to help the students prepare. We are under a minute here, so I'm going to wrap up the meeting so I don't get cut off. If anybody has any more questions, please feel free to email me directly. I'm usually pretty good about responding within 12 hours or so, if it's an off hour. So shoot me an email with any further questions. Thank you guys for attending. I hope this was helpful, and we look forward to working with everybody over the coming months. Welcome to the Black Belt Test.
Thank you, guys. Everybody have a good night.